Have you ever worked with someone who just made the team better? Or maybe you've struggled with someone who made teamwork harder than it needed to be. Well, Patrick Lencioni dives into these dynamics in his book, The Ideal Team Player, which is all about identifying the traits that make someone a great teammate and how we can develop those traits in ourselves. Now, this book has changed the way that I build teams and how I help business owners identify who has the traits to be a good fit for theirs. But it's also part of the 25 books that have changed my life. And today we're going to explore the ideal team player and how it can transform your approach to teamwork. So the big idea of the ideal team player is that great team players share three key traits. They're humble, they're hungry, and they're people smart. So whether you're leading a team, you're working on one, or you're building one, understanding and cultivating these traits can make all the difference. So let's do an overview of these essential traits. The first trait of an ideal team player is they're humble. Humility is about putting the team's needs above your own. One of my business mentors always used to say it this way: mission before ego. That sums it up. You see, a humble team player doesn't seek the spotlight. They don't let their ego drive them. Instead, they focus on collaboration and celebrating the team's success. So let me ask you, do you acknowledge others' contributions? Are you willing to admit when you're wrong? What I found is that humility is foundational for teamwork. Without it, trust and collaboration, they're not far from breaking down. The second trait of an ideal team player is that they're hungry. Hunger is the drive to go above and beyond. Hungry team players are always looking for ways to contribute, to improve, to achieve more, not because they have to, but because they genuinely care about the team's performance. So how about you? Do you take initiative? Are you always looking for ways to add value? Because it's your hunger that's going to fuel the progress. This is how we ensure that we keep moving forward as a team. Now, the third and final trait of an ideal team player is that they're people smart. Being people smart isn't about this kind of intelligence. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about interpersonal awareness. When you're people smart, you understand how to navigate relationships, how to communicate effectively, and how to avoid unnecessary conflict. There's going to be conflict, but you shouldn't be wrapped up in the unnecessary conflict. So let me ask you a few questions. How do you read the room? Do you do that well? Are you mindful of your words and actions and how they impact others? Having this trait ensures that the team's going to operate both smoothly and respectfully. So there you have it: humble, hungry, and smart. Lencioni explains that when someone embodies all three of these traits, they're the ideal team player. But there's a catch. Most of us have strengths in some and weakness in others. That's why this book isn't just about identifying these traits in others. It's about recognizing where we can grow along our leadership journey to become the ideal team player. So let's talk about recognizing and improving these traits, which we break down into two categories. First is, how do we recognize it in others? And second is, how do we develop these traits in ourselves? Let's look at recognizing them in others. As an owner, a leader, or even a team member, I want you to ask yourself three questions. The first is, who on my team demonstrates these traits well? The second question is, what are some examples of how they do that? And the third question is, how could others on the team learn from their example? When we recognize these qualities, I think it helps us make a better hiring decision. It helps us build overall stronger teams, and it helps us develop a culture that prioritizes both collaboration and growth. This is because we're taking the time to identify what doing it well looks like, and then attracting and selecting others that embody these traits. Now let's look through the lens of how we develop these traits in ourselves. The good news: these traits aren't fixed. They can be learned and they can be strengthened. Let me give you a few examples. If you struggle with humility, it would probably be helpful to start practicing giving credit and admitting your mistakes. If hunger isn't your strong suit, well, then start by focusing on taking small initiatives in meaningful ways. And then if people smart is your challenge, then spend some time working on active listening and learning to read social cues. But I want to give you a practical takeaway, something that you can do today, and that is just a simple self-assessment. I want you to reflect on your own strengths and your own areas of improvement. And I want you to look through the lens of these three key areas: humble, hungry, and people smart. And then I want you to give yourself a rating for each. Let's just do 1 through 5. 1 being low to no, 5 being high, almost perfect. What are you excelling at? That would be a higher number. What do you need to work on? That would be a lower number. And then once you've answered that, I want you to pick your lowest, the lowest out of 3. If you've got 2 that are the same number, then just pick whichever one you feel like you're lower in those 2. And then starting this week, I want you to think of a way to make an improvement. How can you improve in this area? Whether it's hungry, or whether it's being more humble, or whether it's being more people smart. Think of a practical action you can start right now. Now, the ideal team player isn't just about finding great teammates. It's about becoming a great teammate. It's really a guide to building better teams and recognizing the traits that we can develop in. Now, let me leave you with this thought. The best teams are made up of individuals who are committed to personal growth and collective success. Personal growth and collective success. Well, thanks for joining me on this episode of the 25 books that have changed my life. I'm really enjoying this journey, and I'm looking forward to sharing the next book with you. I'll see you then.